Nigeria has been blessed with great sons who have had her interests at heart, sons who are known globally, peace ambassadors, champions, and giants. Women's welcome to people, places, things. This video is about one of Nigeria's exceptional sons, Sir Akanu Ibiam. Francis Akanu Ibiam, also known as Sir Francis Ibiam, was born on November 29, 1906 in Owana, a small town located in Afikpo in Ebonyi State, Nigeria. He was the second son of Chief Ibiam Aka, a reverend traditional leader of the Owana clan. Unfortunately, his father passed away when Francis was barely a year old. He was named after one of his notable maternal uncles, according to Igbo custom. Christianity had slowly found its way into Owana through the Cross River from Calabar, courtesy of the Church of Scotland mission. Owana soon became a center of the mission in Igbo land, resulting in the establishment of a primary school by the mission. As it was in those days, the establishment of this primary school met oppositions from the locals, who preferred their children work on their farms. Ibiam became one of those sent to Owana Primary School since one of his relatives was teaching there. Francis' stay at Owana was soon shortened when his brother Samuel Aka Ibiam, who was a tutor at Hobodel Training Institution, Calabar, in the days of high British colonial influence. He got admitted into the primary school section of Hobodel in 1912. Samuel wanted his brother to get the highest quality of education possible. He considered Hobodel a more advanced academic institution than the newly started Owana Primary School. It was at Hobodel the young Ibiam found himself confessing, "Oh, I must become a doctor," when a certain Dr. Adams came to Hobodel Training Institution to give a motivational speech to the students titled "How to Give First Aid to Accident Victims." It was this speech that sparked the passion for medicine instead of agriculture, which he first cherished. Once again, his brother was ready to support him to study a professional course such as medicine. In February 1921, he left Hobodel for King's College, since Hobodel did not offer subjects like Latin, physics, chemistry, and biology, which are basic to any medical career. Ibiam completed his education at King's College after passing his senior certificate examination with distinction in 1924. In the company of Mr. H. A. Haman, his former principal at King's College, he sailed for England on the 22nd of May 1925 for his higher education. Ibiam's UK adventure began at Glasgow University, where he was amazed by the city size and his massive classroom, but he soon moved to London to study sciences at a polytechnic. By 1926, he was accepted into Cambridge, but it was too pricey, so he switched from medicine to agriculture. His brother insisted he return to medicine, and at age 21 he did. A friend suggested he transfer to St. Andrews University in Scotland for a more affordable medical degree. In 1927, Ibiam gained admission to St. Andrews University in Scotland, but faced setbacks that delayed his graduation by 2 years. Despite this, he excelled as a student and a leader, founding the first Igbo Students' Union in Great Britain, along his contemporaries. Ibiam created a vibrant community that celebrated their heritage. Their union had a unique rule. Members were fined for speaking English instead of Igbo. This showcased Ibiam's pride in his roots and his ability to bring people together. In 1935, Ibiam returned to Nigeria. He got a job with the Church of Scotland Mission as a mission doctor. When he applied for the job, the clerk of the synod of the Church of Scotland was surprised, while Ibiam, a qualified medical doctor who could have easily acquired a job with the colonial authorities, wanted to be a mission doctor. This was because he thought it wiser and more accommodating than the colonial government. Ibiam was offered a job by the Nigerian government at Sokoto, but as a responsible person, he realized that his profession would not bear much fruit in an environment where there was overwhelming suppression. The white legal officials discriminated against and withheld the progress of their educated African counterparts. He also wanted to work in a place that was closer to his sick mother. It was for these reasons that Ibiam decided to take up the role of a missionary doctor. Luckily, he was invited by the church mission to open a new hospital either at Ohofia or Abriba. Abriba was a trading area, so he chose it, and on 1st February 1936, a dispensary was set up, and as time went by, it was expanded into a full hospital. The hospital served a wide area comprising Abriba, Ohofia, Item, Ibere, and other environments. At Abriba, Ibiam worked dutifully, becoming a voice of influence in the community. He experienced problems with the church mission when he discovered that they showed racial superiority over his person as a black missionary. He was reduced to a bicycle rider, while his counterparts were provided with cars and given children allowances. He petitioned the mission by sending letters to the mission board, but he was never attended to. Rather, he was transferred to the hospital at Itu by the committee that was set up to investigate his petition to the mission board. Ibiam feared that such discrimination on racial grounds could have been a clever way of forcing him to resign, thereby making a mockery of black missions by rendering it unworkable. He made it clear to the council that no one could discourage him from missionary work. Ibiam married Miss Eudora Olayinka, a higher elementary school teacher from a prominent family in Lagos. Like Ibiam, she studied in England and was a qualified midwife. They had their wedding at the famous Christ Church Cathedral along the Marina in Lagos. Together, they fought against Igbo customs that were incompatible with Christianity. Some of these traditions included the killing of twins, as it was considered a bad omen. At this time, Mr. and Mrs. Ibiam had almost 10 twins to feed in their house after their parents had insisted on killing them. Additionally, Mr. and Mrs. Ibiam undertook the responsibility of educating the populace on the need to discard the old superstitious aversions to the white man medicine. Ibiam, an Igbo man, understood how superstition and witchcraft affected his people. They blamed these beliefs for their problems, like health issues and personal struggles. Ibiam bravely and compassionately helped his patients overcome this fear. He combined Western medicine with the power of the gospel, bringing physical, spiritual, and emotional healing. With kindness and courage, he showed them a new way to live, free from the grip of superstition. Like the pioneers of African nationalism, Ibiam made it his agenda to fight ignorance, disease, and poverty. In his view, superstitious belief clearly demonstrated ignorance. During his practicing career, the belief in witchcraft as a type of sorcery was evident as an established institution amongst the people of Uburu, Ohozra, Abriba, and Itu. Another challenge in Ibiam's career as a mission doctor was female circumcision. Female circumcision was being practiced in many places. Unfortunately, it brought about unnecessary bleeding, infections, and even death to women. During the 1943 National Synod of the Presbyterian Church, Ibiam came out strongly against it, thereby influencing the agenda of the meeting. In a well-prepared paper, he strongly gave reasons why it should be abandoned. He also used the opportunity to show the role of the church in eradicating it. Fortunately, his Presbyterian Church Synod gave him support. Subsequently, the Synod asked him to translate his notes from English into the Igbo and the Efik languages, both of which he was fluent in. These translations were to be included later in the appendix of the Synod books in the 1944 minutes. Ibiam believed that preaching could solve many societal issues. He saw it as essential for the church's mission, emphasizing that preaching shouldn't be misused. According to him, Christian preaching must focus on the cross of Christ. Effective preachers shouldn't just stay in the pulpit, but should spread their messages in places like streets, markets, cities, workplaces, and offices. He believed this approach reflects Jesus' ministry, where he preached not just in temples and synagogues, but also in markets and fields, reaching people wherever they gathered. Ibiam believed in helping those who needed it most. He chose to work in rural areas instead of cities because he wanted to empower people who lacked information and resources. He showed that serving in rural areas is important and meaningful. However, many African professionals still don't want to work in rural areas, even decades after Ibiam set the example. This is a problem because rural areas need skilled professionals to develop and provide services to the community. If no one is willing to serve, who will help the people in this area? Ibiam believed that experts are the ones who can solve big social problems like stopping people from believing in superstition and witchcraft, ending female genital mutilation, ensuring girls get an education, empowering the community. He believed that professionals like him should work where they are needed the most. This shows that Ibiam was a leader who cared about making a difference in the right places. In his booklet, What About Africa?, Ibiam shared his vision for spreading Christianity across Africa. He described his ideal missionary as one who faced challenges and hardship but finds spiritual fulfillment in their work. Ibiam believed that African missionaries can effectively evangelize the continent using similar method. He appreciated the work of European missionaries, but he wanted them to step aside and let Africans take the lead. Ibiam's dream was for a self-supporting African continent where Christianity thrives. He believed that missionaries find joy and satisfaction in their work despite difficulties because they are dedicated to serving Jesus Christ. Ibiam believed that missionaries should be guided by love and desire to fulfill the Great Commission. Their goals should be to serve and do God's will, not to gain status or personal benefits. With dedication and perseverance, missionaries can overcome challenges and fulfill their purpose of spreading God's word, ultimately achieving a Pan-African evangelism dream. Ibiam was inspired by European missionaries who left their comfortable lives to serve in his hometown, but he felt discouraged by their discriminatory attitude. Despite their initial good intentions, some missionaries promoted white supremacy and segregated themselves from the African community. Ibiam observed that older missionaries taught new ones to maintain a distance from Africans, discouraging friendship and integration. Those who defied this rule faced resistance and might not return for another term. Ibiam disapproved of missionaries living in a separate clique, giving orders without regard for local experience. He also saw the white missionaries as contradicting St. Paul's approach in mission as seen in the New Testament. In particular, they were not keen to visit the homes of African Christians, much less the homes of non-Christians. In the case of St. Paul, his colleagues were never arrogant about their Roman citizenship and never discriminated fellow Christians and those whom they sought to convert. As a result, Ibiam proposed the need to remove all stumbling blocks such as discriminatory practices. He wrote, "Pious apologetic statements from government officials will not heal the wounds. It is either complete acceptance of one people by another as equals or friendly relations may as well be broken off to stop this insult and hypocrisy." As a person who had a Pan-African dream of equality for all who lived in Africa, Ibiam at one stage in 1960 flared up when many Europeans in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, protested against the public swimming pools being open to all races. About the multiracial controversy, Ibiam said, "Doctors have been quoted in the press as saying that chlorine in the water was a sufficient safeguard against disease, but one expert described as a leading Salisbury doctor said that he was alarmed at the possibility of disease transmitted from Africans to Europeans at the swimming bath." Ibiam's protest was trying to express the derogatory remarks that tended to downplay the integrity and the dignity of Africa. That is the assumption that only Africans carry and transmit diseases. Such an argument was certain to widen the gap in race relations during his time. Following his successful tenure as a medical practitioner, hospital administrator, and as principal of Hope Model, Ibiam was greatly sought after even by the senior members of the local government of Eastern Nigeria. In September 1960, he and his wife, Lady Ibiam, were honorably invited to Lagos to join other eminent Nigerians at a state service to commemorate the country's attainment of independence after 60 years of British rule. At this service, which was held at the Church of Christ Cathedral on the Marina in Lagos, Sir Francis met other prominent Nigerians, such as Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the new Governor General of the Federation, Chief Festus Okotie-Eboh, the Federal Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Michael L. Okpara, Premier of the Eastern Region, and a host of other personalities. At the close of the service, Okpara rushed to Ibiam and made it clear to him that the new nation was in need of him to serve it. He revealed to him that we have been looking for you. Do please come over to the State House Marina for a chat. It was during the State House meeting that Okpara told him that his government had been screening possible candidates for the vacant post of the governor for the Eastern Region. Ibiam's candidacy for governor of Eastern Region was unanimously endorsed by the cabinet, and despite initial reservations, he accepted the role. His appointment was met with jubilation, especially in Afikpo town. As governor, Ibiam led with Christian virtues, influencing Okpara's cabinet with values like justice, honesty, and humility. He started cabinet meetings with short sermons, shaping the region's governance. Ibiam tackled corruption by convincing Okpara's cabinet to avoid personal foreign bank accounts. This move prevented ill-gotten wealth and set a precedent, with even Okpara delaying his private residence construction until the 1980s. As governor, Ibiam used his platform to address national ills like tribalism, nepotism, and corruption. With reference to Nigeria, Ibiam was convinced that negative ethnicity, what many people refer to as tribalism, was responsible for the rejection of the 1963 national census figure. For indeed, each of the major ethnic groups in Nigeria wanted to ensure that it could also grab the greatest number of seats at the National Assembly. A big ethnic group in terms of number would also receive the greatest portion of the national cake, especially with regards to the revenue allocation. In his view, this quest by the federal government to control power for one particular ethnic group also contributed to the deadlock in the 1965 federal government elections. In Ibiam's view, the increase of crime and the general cases of arson was as a result of negative ethnicity. In particular, he felt that the Hausas controlled the central, northern and western regions while the Igbos held to their eastern and midwestern regions, thereby leaving the other Nigerian tribes dissatisfied. Additionally, he consistently condemned national appointments that were based on tribal affiliation and not on merit. He publicly lamented the enthronement of mediocrity in the place of meritocracy in the nation's civil service and government appointments, which he deemed as a byproduct of tribalism. Major General Aguiyi Ironsi seized power in the 1966 military coup, making Lieutenant Colonel Odumegu Ojukwu the Eastern Region's military governor and forcing Governor Ibiam into retirement. The Nigerian Civil War, also known as the Biafran Civil War, ensued in 1967. Ibiam supported the Biafran cause, believing the Eastern region fought for survival after being rejected by the rest of Nigeria. However, this raised questions about whether his support was a form of tribalism. Ibiam played a unique role during the Civil War, traveling from village to village, town to town to recruit for the Biafran army. He visited war fronts and military camps, offering encouragement to Biafran soldiers, assuring them God would sustain them. When his people became refugees in Nguzu, Edda in 1968, Ibiam went to encourage them, promising that their destroyed town of Owana would one day be rebuilt. As the war intensified, Ibiam renounced his British knighthood in August 1967, writing to the Queen of Britain that it was illogical to wear the insignia while Britain backed federal troops with weapons to eliminate him and his people. He condemned Britain's support for economic blockade on Biafra, leading to the starvation of the populace. Ibiam requested to be stripped of his title, preferring to be known simply as Dr.Akanu Ibiam, and asked the British High Commissioner in Enugu to convey his declaration to the Queen. In the circumstance, Your Majesty, I no longer wish to wear the garb of the British knighthood. British fair play, British justice, and the Englishman's word of honor, which Biafra loved so much and cherished, have become meaningless to Biafrans in general and to me in particular. Christian Britain has shamelessly let down Christian Biafra. I love the Republic of Biafra very dearly and pray that by the grace of God she may remain and continue to grow and live and always act like a truly Christian country for all times, he wrote in his letters. The renunciation of his knighthood achieved for Biafra a diplomatic victory, for he was a global figure. Although it is commonly said that a prophet is never accepted in his hometown, Ibiam was decorated in 1993 with the traditional title of Eze Ugo Isiala of Uwana, the local community where he was born. This traditional title was conferred upon him in recognition of his shining contribution to the welfare of his community and that of the nation at large. In recognition of his contributions to the field of education, politics, medicine, and Christian community service, Ibiam received many awards. Doctorate degrees were conferred upon him by the University of Ibadan and the University of Ife. He was elected chairman of the Christian Council of Nigeria and chairman of the Imo State Council of Chiefs. Ibiam was a key Christian figure, responsible for new initiatives such as the Bible Society of Nigeria and the Christian Medical Fellowship. He served as the president of the Christian Council of Nigeria from 1955 to 1958 and in many other capacities. He also was seen as an outstanding African figure of the decolonization period by the Universal Church, serving as chairman of the conference that led to the birth of All African Conference of Churches, a president of the All African Conference of Churches and of the World Council of Churches, chairman of the Council of the United Bible Societies, and leader of the African Conference of Churches Peace Mission to Sudan. In his hometown, he was a respected traditional ruler, Eze Ugo Isiala I of Uwana and Osuji of Uburu. Following his death in 1955 at the age of 89, he left a lasting legacy on all areas that he touched. In life or in death, his prominence was felt, for his funeral at Uwana in December 1955 was attended by over 2,000 people. The Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, the Akanu Ibiam Federal Polytechnic, Uwana, the Francis Akanu Ibiam Stadium of University of Nigeria, among others, are all named after him. Africa and Nigeria must learn vital lessons from his life and his career, for he gave his all to serve.